G'day hammerheads, welcome back to the bench, and today we are looking at this tiny little gremlin. Oh man, check her out. So this is the Hikoki or Hikoki, yeah come on guys, no one's going to say it like that, DH18DPB. 18mm cordless rotary hammer. So Hikoki is of course the new name for Hitachi, and I guess they changed their name to Metabo HPT in North America because you guys wouldn't stop giggling about vibrators. But speaking of vibrators, this little guy is quite the little power pack. Look at this thing. So obviously the striking thing, aside from the color, which I just love that shade of green they got going on there, the striking thing about this tool is the tiny little size. And in fact this thing is, you know, like a lot of little hammers nowadays, it is designed to be used one-handed. So check out the balance there. It's really nicely balanced this way, but they've also got a drop motor version of this. And I was wondering, what's the deal? Why are they making like a pistol grip and a drop motor? Well, it turns out that this guy is actually really, really well balanced that way too. And so she is actually optimized for drilling upwards. So very, very cool design, very specific, but a lot of tools are getting really esoteric nowadays with their requirements, so good stuff. So this little guy is a 2-mode. Like some Makitas, it has this hammering that doesn't actually engage unless you press against it. And Hikoki says that's actually to protect against dry hammering. So, you know, unless you're actually hammering something, they don't want the hammer mechanism going too much in there. So she is brushless, and Hikoki has a couple of extra electronic features going on down here. So there is a low speed, high speed. If you do get one of these guys, don't be super disappointed in its performance until you've checked that you actually have it in high speed. God knows that did not happen to me. So it's also got this auto stop timer function here. So if you hold this button down, so it's flashing blue now. So now it's going to record how long I'm actually drilling for. And now it's recorded that every other time I press the trigger, it will drill for that same amount of time. And even if you take the battery out, that gets recorded. So do remember to turn that off as well if you are using one of these. So we're going to see how that goes a little bit later, but for now let's check the specs. So this little guy comes with a pretty big price tag, $3.99 $. The weight on my scale is a minuscule 1.6 kilos. She's rated to 18mm capacity, which is pretty surprising. I mean, most little hammers are maybe 16. Impact energy is 1.3 joules, so yeah, not too bad. A little on the low side for a 18mm rated hammer. Impact per minute, 5,500. RPM, 1080. And the impact power, which is just these two multiplied together, is 7,150 joules per minute. So with this impact power, that's going to be kind of in the middle of what we've seen so far, which is pretty good for such a tiny hammer. So to give you an idea of just how small this thing is, let's compare to one of these guys. So that's a standard hammer drill driver from Milwaukee. So this guy without the handle weighs 1.4 kilos, which is the same as what this one weighs. And comparing the size, I mean, they're pretty similar in size. And this is just a normal drill driver, like, just amazing. Like, look at that. That's the hammer mechanism in there. And the motor is about that much. Look at that. And let's just check the revs. All right, so 1060, just shy of the 1080 they advertise. Very nice. And just one other little design feature before we get to the testing. I really like how they have this little fender here. See that? Little bumper there, just to stop the logo rubbing off when you put it down on its side. Oh, guys, it's just got a really nice feel to it. All right, so our first test is 8 by 80mm speed test. I do that with all the little hammers here. So 8mm is about 1/3 of an inch going into 32 MPa concrete. All right, nicely done from the little gremlin there, 9.68 average, and that is just in the middle of the pack of drills that we've done lately using this test in this concrete. So one reason for this big difference between the tools here is the Hiltis had a lot more torque. They did not bog down with this little tight-fitting drill bit. The Hikoki did a little bit, but nowhere near as much as the Milwaukees. So next test is the 12 by 80 mil speed test. So same concrete. This is a test that all my hammers are going to go through. So let's see how she goes. Alright, and once again, the little gremlin is in the middle of the pack, 14.45 average seconds there. So compared to the other 18mm rated tool, the bigger Hilti, fair bit slower there, but this one does also hit a lot harder. 2 joules of impact versus 1.3. And she was a little bit faster than the smaller Hilti, which is rated to 16mm. Now these 12mm bits have a much bigger kerf on there, so they don't go into the hole nearly as tightly. So you don't see nearly as much torque effect with this test as you do with this test. And so this auto stop feature that it's got down here, that is meant to actually just help you get consistent holes and not worry about how deep you're drilling. You know, if you're just going on autopilot, you just drill, 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 drill. So it's meant to help you get the same depth hole every time. So does it actually do that? Well, using the 12mm bit, I just had a few drills with this little guy activated in that same concrete. So let's see how that went. So the first hole sets the timer. And then I did 3 more using that same stop function. So yep, they're all drilling the exact same time as advertised. But do they actually drill the same depth as well? So the auto stopped holes were a little bit deeper. They were around 40mm compared to the reference hole, which is about 35. So whatever I did there, you know, maybe I didn't press as hard when I was doing the reference or something like that. I'm sure you get used to it. It is going to vary a little bit based on, you know, the concrete, how hard you press, all that sort of stuff. But in general, I can see that feature actually being pretty handy. You know, if you just got to line up 1,000 holes and you just want to bang them out, that's probably going to work pretty well. But, you know, you just want to fine tune how you actually do the recording to get it working really nicely. And the last test for the little gremlin today is 18mm, so that's the max capacity. Same concrete, same depth, let's go. Alright, so once again, in the middle of the pack, so that's really nice considering it is the lightest, the smallest 18-volt hammer out there. Really nicely done. So notably, only a few seconds slower than the TE4, but this guy does hit a lot harder, so I'm pretty impressed with this one being able to, you know, keep up with a much harder hitting, a much bigger hammer. And also just a little slower than the Milwaukee. This one's rated to 16mm, so that is a smaller bit. You do expect it to drill faster. So yeah, really nicely done there. And honestly, when they say this is rated to 18mm, I mean, I was a little bit skeptical, hey. You know, even though this bit is pretty big proportional to the hammer, she handled it just fine. And look, I gotta say, I am super impressed with this little tool. I mean, she will cost you a fair bit more than the other really compact hammers, but she is lighter and, well, got the goods. Personally, I would have rated this a 16mm, keep it more in line with the rest of the pack, but hey, Hikoki has just gone, nah, let's make it 18. And oh boy, I mean, she delivers the goods. Now, of course, if you're drilling a lot of 18mm holes, like that's a pretty big hole, I would be getting a bigger hammer, but she can handle it for sure. I think it could use a little bit more torque, but that's mainly a problem for me because when I'm doing the speed drills, I can't pull the drill bits out and clear that dust. If you're able to just clear the dust, yeah, no worries there. Don't forget, a one-handed hammer is going to be designed to be a little on the less torquey side, just because, you know, if that does bind up when you're going at it with one hand, you might do your wrist. So perfectly fine there. My other sort of slight concern with this one was during my initial like break-in testing, like literally the first time I used it, just drilling a bunch of random crap in the yard, it did actually overheat, and it had these little lights flashing on down here. So one little design quirk though I think they could improve is that the vents back here, blowing the hot air out of the motor, when you're holding it one-handed, you actually sort of cover up the vents, and that can get pretty hot on your hand at times. The overheating has not happened again since that very first time, and I tend to hold it like this now. So anyway, hammerheads, there you go. A beautiful little addition to the rotary hammer collection, and I've got to say, Hikoki, keep bringing the goods. I'm really liking this stuff. I do like the electronicals they've got going on here, and once again, I just can't believe that this tiny little thing here, it's so, you know, it just feels so tough, so well made, but so small and really impressive. So anyway, guys, thanks very much for watching. Be sure to smash that subscribe button and like and comment and all that YouTube shit. And from the Green Gremlin and I, that'll do us. So scratches later.